How's it going, everyone? It's Savi from Where's Which 1000. Today is January 12th, 2021, and we're gonna focus on this potential major northeast snowstorm that could occur headed into this weekend, and it'll be the same one that could affect the Midwest headed into this weekend and late this week as well. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So as you can see, taking a look at the GFS model, you see a 984 millibar storm just north of the United States and Canada border, and you see that it's dumping a pretty large area of snow throughout the United States. This includes the upstate New York, this includes portions of New England, and if we move a little bit further back, that snow even extends as far south as Pennsylvania and close to New Jersey and the New York City metropolitan area. And we're still 5 days out. That snow still could creep a little further east if just enough cold air filters in right around the center of circulation of this low pressure system. We just have to wait and see, because 5 days out there's still a lot of uncertainty, but based off of what the computer model has been detecting, there's going to be not only a major polar vortex that's going to move through the United States headed into this weekend, but because of this major vortex, the computer models are now detecting a little bit more convection along this jet stream dip towards the eastern side. And once that cold air interacts with that warmer Gulf Stream water or the warm Gulf of Mexico water, it's forecasting that a new low pressure system will form right along the east coast, and that will be the anatomy of this potential northeast snowstorm that could dump a huge amount of snow in the northeast. There's still a lot of uncertainty about the exact details. However, the northeast definitely needs to pay attention for a potential snowstorm. And even if this low pressure system maybe stays a little bit further offshore and doesn't affect the northeast as much, there's still this low pressure to worry about in the interior northeast. So either way, you need to stay tuned to your local forecast headed into this weekend, because it's going to be this could potentially be a critical storm, and the forecast will be critical in terms of what impacts you will see and what changes, and the changes in the forecast will be critical to what impacts you will see in the future. So you see that there's going to be a polar vortex as a result of a mid-latitude cyclone moving through the United States, pretty much all throughout North America. And behind this mid-latitude cyclone, well, I wouldn't say it's a mid-latitude cyclone just yet. It's a little bit too weak, because you don't really see that extending line of precipitation extending along the jet stream or cold front in this case. So I wouldn't say it's a mid-latitude cyclone just yet, but it's definitely a decently potent low pressure system, and it's potent enough to dump snow in the Midwest and Canada at this forecasted point. However, since there's low pressure located right here and there's a strong ridge located right around the Pacific Northwest, and they're so close to each other, there's going to be a strong pressure gradient between the two, and all the air molecules that are pretty much clumped together in this area of high pressure wants to move away from the higher pressure and wants to move to an area where there's lower pressure, so the air pressures are completely balanced right along the surface. So it tries to move into this low pressure system that's towards Canada at this point, and as it does so, that creates wind, which is why when high pressure and low pressure are very close together, that means that there's a very high chance of wind, and that definitely increases the wind when we're seeing the high pressure and the low pressure close together, since the higher pressure air wants to move into lower pressure, and as it does so, that creates wind. And because of that, the winds are going to be facing northerly, and because of that, that wind is going to steer a lot of that colder air further southward, and that will create the polar vortex throughout the United States, which not only will bring a lot more colder temperatures throughout the United States and bring this low pressure system further southward and bring a lot more snow in the Midwest. This could be the anatomy of future future snowstorms that could impact the eastern half of the United States. And this one I'm mentioning right along the East Coast is one of them where you could experience a big amount of snow from this. So you might be asking, what will change the forecasted snowfall for the Northeast, and what factors would need to change for maybe the slow pressure system to dump more snow or less snow in the Northeast? Well, it obviously depends on firstly, how strong or how deep this polar vortex is and how much of a jet stream dip there is. Because if the jet stream dip is just slightly smaller and the polar vortex isn't as pronounced or as defined in the United States, then there's less likely of a chance that there's going to be unstable air right along the eastern coast of the United States to form a much stronger low pressure system, and as a result, it'll be a much the snowfall threat will be lower in the Northeast. However, if that polar vortex is a little bit deeper than expected, or at least the same as it is now, then expect more snow throughout the Northeast. So just stay tuned over the next several days, and we need to see how this polar vortex reacts over the next several days. The European model isn't expecting as deep or as strong of a polar vortex moving through the United States, because if we compare the European model 120 hours from now to the GFS model 120 hours from now, you see that the GFS model is at 984 millibars. Compare that to the European model, and the European model is a little bit further eastward, and also it's noticeably weaker than the GFS model at 994 millibars. It isn't an entirely weak storm. It's still potent enough to dump snow throughout New England and the Adirondacks. However, I wouldn't say in this case it'll be as major as what the GFS model is forecasting. And the reason why the European isn't expecting as potent of a storm is that it doesn't expect much. It doesn't expect there much more strong polar polar vortex throughout the United States, because compare the European model 48 hours from now to, I mean, not 48, 4 days from now to the GFS 4 days from now. So let me pull up the 500 millibar height MSLP and compare it. So you see that 96 hours from now, you see the dark blues, which represent very cold temperatures. Compare that to European, and the dark blues are non-existent, which means that it doesn't expect this mid-latitude cyclone to pack as much cold air behind it to really enhance that instability to make a stronger low pressure system along the East Coast. So we just have to wait and see how this jet stream dips and how strong the polar vortex is, because that'll definitely change what type of impacts you'll see from this low pressure system that's expected to form in the United States. However, I will say it's pretty much guaranteed a low pressure will move through the United States at this point, as both computer models are agreeing that this mid-latitude cyclone is going to move southward to the United States. It isn't like a couple of days ago where both of them were taking it well north of the United States border and not bringing as much impacts. There will be a low pressure system that will move throughout the northern United States and the Great Lakes, and will bring a decent amount of snow, even if this low pressure system does not form as expected along the East Coast. Even though I would say more likely than not, at least some low pressure will form in the East Coast. Where it'll form and how strong will it be, we still have to wait and see. But I could say with confidence that expect snow throughout the Great Lakes region. I can't go into specifics just yet. It's still a little bit too far. However, once we get closer to the event, I will make sure to give you guys a more specific snowfall forecast. So in terms of my snowfall forecast for this current nor'easter as of right now, and you might notice that I'm not giving any specific numbers with my snowfall forecast, and that's pretty much to exemplify the idea that this is still far from certain. A lot could change 5 days from now. However, and I want to be as precise as possible without giving you guys any false assumptions. So if this northeast snowstorm were to happen and both the computer models are right at its current form, expect uh, the heaviest snow throughout the interior northeast, which includes the Adirondacks and a lot of northern New England, like New Hampshire and Vermont, and expect moderate snow right around Pennsylvania and even just northwest of the I-95 corridor. It's going to be well northwest of most of the I-95 corridor in the along the coast. So as of right now, no type of snow is expected in Boston, New York City, Philadelphia. However, that snowfall accumulation isn't very far from Boston, New York City, and Philadelphia. And when we're 5 days out and with a lot of uncertainty still, that could easily change to the point where you might experience snowfall a little bit further eastward, and that'll make drastic changes in terms of the impacts you'll see headed into this weekend along the coast. So just a lot of uncertainty as of right now. However, I will say there's going to be at least some sort of snow event in the Northeast, and I would say for the Great Lakes as well. So let's say the GFS model was 100% correct, or at least nearly precise with its current snowfall forecast. Is again assuming 1 inch of rain equates to 10 inches of snow. You see that 120 hours from now, you see that a lot of the Northeast is in the pinks, and you even see some of the greens in the Adirondacks, in the Adirondack Mountains, which represent over a foot of snow. And I want to emphasize this could easily change. I know I keep emphasizing this in this video, but there's still a lot of uncertainty, so do not take this as face value. However, just keep in mind and stay tuned over the next several days all throughout the Northeast. And I would say throughout the Midwest, it's now more likely than not you're going to experience a decent snow event around 3 to 6 inches in northern Wisconsin, even in the northeastern portion of Minnesota. So I would prepare in those regions because it's more certain you're going to experience around 3 to 6 inches of snow from this. And I would say just east of that, I would say just keep watching because it's going to be a very critical forecast for you guys in terms of what type, in terms of how much snow or what impacts you'll see. But in terms of anything else that's going on in the United States at this point, you see that for the most part, it's mainly quiet. You see that the former snowstorm that was over Texas and extending to the southeast is now well out to sea and weakened drastically as it headed eastward because, like I said, that jet stream straightened out, so there wasn't as much unstable air for this storm to work with. However, if we move further westward, you see there's a lot of snow and rain all throughout the Northwest Pacific, and this is the same storm that's going to eventually turn into the snowstorm and eventually create a new snowstorm along the East Coast that could dump snow throughout the Midwest. But in terms of what it is going to do to the Northwest Pacific, it's pretty much typical what you typically see in the Northwest Pacific: snow in the higher elevations and just a lot of rain in the lower elevations, such as Seattle and Portland. So just keep them. So it shouldn't be surprising for you guys at all at this point, but just keep in mind of a lot of rain and heavy snow in the higher elevations. So it might be even better for skiing if you guys are into skiing or the snow in the higher elevations. And yeah, this will be the same storm that will develop into potentially the monster and will create that polar vortex that's going to bring well below average temperatures throughout the United States headed into this week. So keep that in mind. Temperatures are expected to be well below average for the most part. And the thing that's concerning with this polar vortex is that since there's now a big jet stream dip, there's going to be a lot more instability thanks to this polar vortex, since we're going to see a lot more of that cold air interact with that warmer southeast United States air because the jet stream dip is so pronounced. So expect more unstable air and potentially more snowstorms thanks to as a result of the increased convection thanks to this instability that's going to be induced by this polar vortex. So we just have to keep that in mind, and we're already expecting to see it with this potential East Coast snowstorm, and it could happen even more in the future. And I want you guys to make sure to be prepared for any sort of snowstorms over the next several weeks, because it definitely could happen with this polar vortex. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see more weather related content.